Welcome back, everybody. Matt here. Hope you're doing well. So this past weekend, we had Wolfman come out. Now this is a remake of not only the original Wolfman back in the 20s or 30s, and then we had a remake in 2010 with Benicio del Toro, Anthony Hopkins, Emily Blunt, and Hugo Weaving. Now, I did a podcast on that in October of last year during my Halloween specials, which I'll link in at the end of this video if you didn't watch that. And I'm a fan of that remake of in 2010. I'm actually one of the people, like I said, I think it's kind of more of an underrated monster movie. So I was looking forward to this new Wolfman movie. We know Universal has kind of rebooted their monster universe. They tried to do it, started up in 2017 with The Mummy with Tom Cruise. That didn't work. So they waited a few years, and then in 2020 they rolled out their brand new reboot monster universe with The Invisible Man that starred Elizabeth Moss. And I thought that was a great movie. A lot of people didn't see it because it came out right before the pandemic began. So it kind of slid under the radar. But if you haven't seen The Invisible Man remake from 2020, I highly, highly recommend it. That was directed by Lee Winnell, who started out with the original Saw movie. He wrote it with James Wan, and he was the co-star. He was the other guy in the bathroom with Carrie Elwes. Then he helped with the Insidious franchise. Then I think on the third Insidious movie, he directed it. And then he went on to do Upgrade with Logan Marshall Green, great movie. And then he did The Invisible Man. And now 5 years later, which I still can't believe it's been 5 years since that Invisible Man movie came out in January of 2020. But he took on the directing duties for this new Wolfman movie. It was originally going to be directed by the guy who did The Place Beyond the Pines with Ryan Gosling, Eva Mendes, and Bradley Cooper. But for some reason, he dropped out. And it was going to star Ryan Gosling as the main character. Which, that right there was like, Ryan Gosling in a Wolfman movie? Yes. And you will get a lot of his darker roles, like Place Beyond the Pines, Drive. You know he can go there. And I thought that's going to be an interesting movie. When they both dropped out, Lee Winnell took over. Christopher Abbott came on to play the lead. Julie Gardner plays the female lead. And let's get into it. Positives. Practical makeup. Now The Invisible Man was made for only $8 million. And I thought this movie was probably around that. But it was made for a little bit more, for $25 million. Still isn't that much in today's Hollywood standards. But the practical makeup, but then it is still a low budget movie. The practical makeup and effects are great. Especially, one thing I love is, unlike most werewolf movies or Wolfman movies, as soon as we see the full moon, the person becomes the Wolfman. We see that transformation right there, right then and there, boom. And what I liked about this movie is the transformation from normal human to Wolfman. It takes its time. It doesn't just happen in one night, in one instance. Boom. As the story, as the night, the events take place in one night. As the night goes along, Christopher Abbott, who plays our main character, slowly starts turning into a werewolf. And I thought that was something we've never seen before, where it doesn't just happen right away. There's a slow transformation. And it shows with the practical makeup as the movie goes along. So I thought that was great. The sound design, they use an interesting, unique technique from the perspective of our main male lead, and then his wife and daughter, where the camera, and this is all in camera, will go from one perspective, then pan over to another perspective, and you hear how the sound design changes with the voices, with the atmosphere in the room. And the sound design is excellent for atmosphere. It happens in one night and at night in this house, in this mountain, woodsy area that builds on the suspense. The musical score is great. This movie's only 90 minutes, so it really moves. The Invisible Man was almost 2 hours, so this one's a little bit tighter. And this is a tight story. I think either the cinematography with the camera changing perspectives from how, as this guy is turning into this wolf, how he starts to lose himself and not being able to communicate. He's starting to lose his voice, not being able to communicate well. And you start to see that with the camera movement, like I said. A lot of interesting themes. Now, some of them they don't completely, fully commit to. Like, they start them, and then we're like, okay, a little bit more. I don't like when movies do that, where they come up with an interesting theme that's really interesting that you need to really get into. But they only dig once. They don't keep going. But they deal with the whole theme of parents and their children. How do you raise your children? How do you, draw that line of being that parent that needs to be stern with their child, well then not terrifying them at the same time. And then also this whole thing about, males are supposed to protect their family, protect their children, but what if, you go too far and now your child is afraid of you? And I like that perspective because, throughout the movie they're trying to hide in this house from this other wolf outside that's trying to get in. Well, on the other hand, inside, with their own husband/father slowly turning into a wolf and losing perspective and human characteristics, you then become more terrified of the person in the house than the one outside the house, because you're closer to the person in the house than you are the one outside the house. So I did like that. Some of my negatives, the one thing I was really worried about when they announced that Lee Winnell was coming on to direct, I thought he did a great job with the Invisible Man and Upgrade, and even the third Insidious movie. But I thought, this is a different monster. That's why I like the idea of the director of Place Beyond the Pines coming in to direct a Wolfman movie with Ryan Gosling. He has a different vision, different perspective, a fresh take, fresh everything, rather than someone who just did The Invisible Man, now doing another classic monster. And I think the cinematography and the acting is well done. but I think you needed another person to come in and direct the movie. For storyline, this is only a 90-minute movie. The Invisible Man was almost 2 hours. This movie needed a little bit more character development, especially between the husband and wife. They're having, as we start the movie, they're having marital problems. Well, we never get into why they have, what their issue is, how did it start, we have like a quick turn and the wife is, very good, very, more likable, and it's like, we didn't really get to see that arc. And I think this movie, and this is going to be a minor spoiler, the third act of this movie definitely hits on the same tropes from the remake of The Wolfman from 2010. If you've seen the remake of The Wolfman from the 2010 version, you know how the ending of this movie is going to play out. Which is surprised for a movie that was going on in its own direction, its own spin on the Wolfman, story. The third act really goes into familiar territory that we saw in the last Wolfman movie. To the point that I thought, instead of this one character ending the movie this way, they should have had the daughter do what she has to do by the end of the movie. And that meant making the daughter more of a teenager than a kid, maybe. But I think it would have been a stronger movie, a stronger ending, especially that father-daughter relationship. It actually is like the heart of the movie. And I think that last third act, especially when we get into that last 10 minutes, especially if you know the tropes of the last Wolfman movie, you have the daughter do what she needs to do. It would have been a more tragic, sad, but also a very understanding type of movie. Overall, do I think this is a bad movie? No. I think it's good acting from Christopher Abbott, the makeup, the cinematography, the music, the sound design, it all works. I think it needed more story. A little bit more meat on the bone, if you know what I mean. I give this like a 3.9 out of 5. It's definitely not on the level of The Invisible Man. So if you go into this movie thinking this is going to be the new The Invisible Man from 2020, let me know in the comments below. Did you see Wolfman now in theaters? What version of the Wolfman do you prefer? The original, the remake of 2010, or now this new version? Let me know in the comments below. Matt the Man here. Hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, leave a comment.